Glad to join us.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's go right into the reports. Two school children were electrocuted on Monday while taking shelter from the rain at a roadside shop in Mwiwiche in Newi North local government area of Anambra State. The incident occurred at St. Peter's Claver Junction, throwing the community into mourning. Eyewitnesses said several pupils had gathered at the shop to escape the downpour when the wet bodies of two children came in contact with a live metal. Both victims died instantly. Others narrowly escaped the same fate. The shop owner was not present at the time of the incident. Security operatives and bypassers reportedly used protective gloves to evacuate the bodies. The tragedy follows a recent fatality in the same area where a woman was swept away by flood waters, raising concerns about public safety in Inewi communities. Police spokesperson SP Tochukwu Ikenga confirmed the incident and said a detailed investigation was underway to determine the cause and possible negligence. The state has recorded several electrocution cases in recent months. In May, a 3-year-old girl died in Oka after stepping on a falling high-tension cable. The incident has renewed calls for urgent action to address poor electricity infrastructure and safety lapses in Anambra. I mean, little children coming back from school. Same way it's been raining all over my city in Port Harcourt. I don't know what it's been like in Lagos this morning, but we've had a very, very wet morning. And little children getting back from school, just trying to, escape the rain and seek shelter. And this happens. What are your thoughts on this report?
I mean, this is just one of the sad realities of that happens in this part of the world. I mean, in our society, and it all boils down to negligence and the fact that, like I always say on the show, why people are not accountable for their ignorance and negligence. I mean, it's been raining here as well. I mean, on and off, so I can assume that's mostly the weather for. I'm sure it's raining. It will be raining quite much in places like Port Harcourt, a bit in Anambra and the likes. And the thing that someone would, even if it's not raining, why would you allow such an hazard to be in place in the first place, right? To the extent that it started raining, and these kids are just trying to get back from school. No one would expect such a thing, right? Which is why I feel like when things like this happen, people should be held accountable. It's not just about feeling bad or or ruling it out as one of the bad things that could happen. These things could have been avoided in the sense that fine, nobody is saying don't make use of electricity or electricity inclined um, objects for your stores or equipment and all that.
All right.
But when you are not on ground to ensure that these things are safe or your environment is safe, and this is like literally in front of your shop, right? Where people can pass, where people can get in contact with these things. You should ensure that these things should be kept away from the reach of people, you know, adults and kids alike. But leaving these things and then ruling it as negligence is not enough. I feel like this whoever holds that score should be brought in for questioning and should also face the law. I'm sure that there's a law that guides all of that.
Now, if that person is going to face the law, what then do you think should happen to the girl that got to step on high tension wires? Who should take the fall for that?
You mean the children?
There's a little girl in the report, a few months ago that did step on high tension
Yeah,
wires in Anam. So who takes the fall for that? Do you think it's a failure in the system rather than an individual? For example, you were talking about, first of all, let's go through who takes the fall for the girl stepping on the high tension wire?
I mean, the high tension wire. Who are those in charge of the high tension wires, right? Those in charge of the high tension wire should be the ones to take the fall for that, because it all boils down to. I don't think it's more about individual or nothing or no individual involved. These wires do not just exist all of a sudden. There are people that put it up there for a reason. I mean, it's for electricity. It's not like
Right.
it was meant to electrocute anybody in the first place. but it has to be maintained. If it's NEPA, if it's PHCN, if it's regardless of the distribution of the disco company, they are supposed to maintain the conditions of this equipment, permit me to say, right? The high
Yeah.
tension wire, of course, is needed to transmit electricity from one location to another. But in as much as hazards could happen, right? We then, the investigation then needs to come into play. Like, okay, how was the condition of this wire even before, this young girl stepped on it? Was it in a bad condition? Was it one of those situations where it just happened and nobody expected it? When these investigations are being done, I'm not saying just arrest people and charge them, right?
Okay.
When these investigations are being done, was it being kept in a good condition prior to when this tragedy occurred, or was it kept in a bad condition? I mean, I won't mention a location at the moment, but I'm sure you have passed through some areas, maybe in your community where you see like the pole is literally leaning towards the main road,
Oh
right?
yes.
And nobody's coming to say, oh, let's straighten this up. Or you see a wire that is literally almost touching some cars or some trucks. And nobody's saying, oh, let's raise this thing higher. Those such conditions are not good enough. So if investigations are done and it's shown that okay, the conditions were bad, then the disco company or whoever is managing those the electricity around that area
Mm.
should take the fall for it because these things not just happen, right?
Right.
We need to be accountable. We need to be responsible for things. I mean, that's the only way society would work, positively, rather than this is such a sad news. I mean, parents should be thinking, no, let me make food for my kids. They're on their way back, only for you to hear that, oh, they were trying to take shade, from the heavy rain, and such a bad thing happened. It's not excusable, if
Right.
you ask me.
I mean, now you raised a very, very important point as regards around our communities. We get to see this wires, hanging really low. But I've noticed that in more civilized nations, you don't get to see these poles. You don't get to see these wires. Why do you think such better infrastructure and techniques as regards to making this more safer is it being adopted in our society today?
I mean, just like I've always said on the show, I feel like some things are not placed under the itemization of important things to do, right? When for example I myself have a to-do list, I think our leaders will not put these things under that list. Like, okay, we need to ensure that we keep our goals. I mean, let's say fine, let's say we haven't gotten to the extent of, oh, we are having underground wiring, which is like the best way, if you ask me. When you have underground wiring, at least you don't see all these poles up in the air. You don't have issues of wire falling and dropping frequently as it does. You don't have poles, falling on the road and all of that.
And people
Let's
don't
say
get
we
to
don't
step on
even
high
we are not even
tension.
exactly. Let's say we have not even gotten into that. Let's at least try to keep these poles in good conditions, right? I've seen some. I mean, some areas are commendable. You literally see them even changing the poles to I don't know the word to use, but like using a much more solid solid option. Like it's almost like a block made pole, which is much more solid if you ask
Right.
me. You know, rather than using wood, which in most cases it can even conduct electricity and things like that. So even if they are not going into underground wiring at this point, at least let our electricity distribution companies take it within themselves to ensure that the poles are kept in good conditions, the wires are kept in good conditions. There are some areas you go to when power comes, you literally see the electricity that sparks out from the transformer up to the wire. I mean, and around these places, sometimes you see shops, you see buildings. It's not good enough. We need to stop putting the lives of people at risk, like constantly on a daily basis. We need to take it upon ourselves. Our leaders you know, need to checkmate these things, bring up policies to guide these things. Distribution companies that are not taking it seriously should, face some sort of system that checks them rather than just allowing people to to leave by chance. Like I always say on the show, it's not good enough.
Thank you so much for your insight on that report. We head to Edo State, where Governor Monday Okpebholo has issued a stern directive to all commissioners, warning that anyone who fails to wear the Asiwaju cap, also known as the President Bola Tinubu cap, to Executive Council meetings will be sent out. The governor gave the warnings on Tuesday, October 14, during the swearing-in of 20 new commissioners and board members in Benin City. He said the move was to acknowledge President Tinubu's support for the state's political structure. Before we begin, you see this cap I am wearing? I will not forgive any commissioner that is not wearing it, he said, adding that only those in traditional attire must pair it with cap or leave the meeting. Okpebholo also cautioned the new appointees against corruption and warned that his administration would not tolerate acts that undermine its integrity. He emphasized that the appointments were based on merit and not political patronage. Our focus is not on propaganda but on service delivery and tangible results, the governor declared, urging them to prioritize development over personal gain. Speaking on behalf of the appointees, Festus Ebia thanked the governor for the opportunity to serve and pledged full commitment to his vision for Edo State. Kalawale, I mean, what are your thoughts on this report holistically when you look at it?
It's a laughable report. Not that it's not a serious. It's actually a very serious issue that I see right here, especially with the fact that the Edo State governor keeps coming up with, I don't know what to say. Will I say questionable comments and questionable actions? Because we are talking about, we are operating a system of democracy where, you know, you are supposedly in quotes, being, government of the people, by the people and all of that. You're a governor, and what is your job? I believe as a governor, you are a servant to the citizens. But I find in most cases we find out that the other state governor is always caught up in very weird statements, and sometimes I don't want to sound very derogatory, but sometimes it's even hard to think in terms of it almost diminishes my IQ, if you ask me, because how does putting on a particular cap, plays with the whole business of the day, which was supposed to be, appointments and all of that. I mean, we need to do better. Our leaders need to do better. I don't know if it is the choice of the people at the end of the day, or it's just because they find themselves in these positions, and all of a sudden they do not really take into consideration the things they do afterwards. Because it really fails to understand the whole idea of this statement he made. And I want to think it's a joke. I want to think it's a joke. Otherwise, it just doesn't look good, because it's all a joke. It seems like all a joke to me. I mean,
No,
there has to be.
but
Yeah.
he did let them know upfront that he's going to send them out without them wearing, the caps when they
I
have
mean,
executive council meetings. Because I mean, without the caps, of course, they won't be able to contribute as much as they ought to contribute when the caps are, off. Right? So you
I
don't think
mean,
that's pretty serious? I mean, the need for people to the cap kind of adds some level of, accurate thinking to it. Don't you think so?
well, I think it's probably serious, but I mean, for it to make sense to me, it only makes sense to me as a joke. That's just what I was trying to say. And I mean, even if you want to say, oh, you want to appreciate the president for supporting the other states as a state, or all of that. I mean, these are things you make as statements, right? I mean, having to go to the extent of threatening your commissioners, threatening to send them out the room because of that just makes no sense. I mean, I went through the reports, and so I mean, it's trending on social media briefly as well, and the comments was like people are, I can't begin to see all the comments right here, because people are beginning to bring up political propagandas, talking about how everybody's trying to lean towards one direction and all of that. But I just feel like most times when I see things like this, it gets me on the bad side because it just goes to show that we have a long way to go as a society, as a democratic society that we say we are. Because most times our governors, our leaders, fail to even understand why they are in some positions, why they are in the positions that they are. They begin to act up and do things that, I mean, really questionable. I don't even know how to break this down, but I feel like the other state governor should probably take a break to analyze and look around Edo State. I mean, I made a trip some months back, and I've heard from people as well that the Edo State road, which is like a major road, when traveling from I mean from the west north down to the south, you find out that that road is very bad, one of the worst major roads in Nigeria. You know, it's been like that for years. There's so much thing, there's so much work to do. Yet the governor still has time to talk about how people should put on a particular kind pardon me. So I just feel like misplaced priorities just weeks whenever his name pops up. If it's not talking about, I mean, even some this is still allegedly some months back, it was mentioned that they got a contract from a particular organization. I can't remember the name now. People are questioning, okay, what's this organization? Some journalists even went ahead. I mean, that's their job to kind of find out who these organizations are, or who this organization is rather. To put a name and to be sure about their validity, right? And authenticity. And it turns out that it's more like an echo, right? There is no digital footprints. There is no contact for this supposed organization that signed this deal, which is almost like billions of naira. So questionable things entirely, and it's not even a good look. But again, we live in a society where our leaders just do what they want to do, and people just we just talk about it and nothing comes out of it. And it's really sad until when our leaders learn to be accountable, until when we as people learn to ensure that our leaders are accountable. We keep seeing funny, laughable things like this. Sadly.
Thank you so much for your insight on that report, Kalawale. Federal Ministry of Education has announced a major change to admission requirements for Nigerian tertiary institutions. Senior secondary school students in arts and humanities will no longer need a credit in mathematics to secure admission into universities and polytechnics. For years, admission seekers across all fields are required to have 5 credits, including English and mathematics, in WAEC or NECO. Under the new policy, arts and humanities students will only need credits in relevant subjects and English. According to the ministry, the revised national guidelines aim to remove barriers while maintaining academic standards. Mathematics remains compulsory for science, technology, and social science programs. At the polytechnic level, math is required only for science-related courses, while arts students need 4 credits, including English. Colleges of education will also adopt similar subject-based entry criteria. Education Minister Dr. Tunji Alausa said the reform is a deliberate effort to expand access to tertiary education. Analysts have described the move as a brilliant reform that will ease entry into higher institutions for students. The new framework applies to universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, and innovation enterprise academies nationwide. For many years, when you start schooling, people usually say for critical thinking, you need to learn math. What do you think this new change in curricula for entry into tertiary institution, what do you think this would mean for us in these times? Let me get your thoughts on it.
Well, I mean, I'm sure people have different reactions to this, but I wouldn't say I'm completely against it,
Okay.
right? Because I feel like at the end of the day, I mean, mathematics is very important, especially when it comes to critical thinking. It helps. It's more analytical. I mean, for the basic and foundational stage, which is quite important for IQ development our growing youth like this. So, in as much as I think that is the case, I still understand that okay, for tertiary institutions where at that point, people want to focus or specialize, right? Those that
Right.
want to focus on science could focus on science. And of course, the criteria, it's okay for the criteria to be different because, I mean, sciences need more analytical and mathematical um, um, strength, and maybe humanities and arts need more of, we could say, more of literary strength and yeah, all of that. So I kind of agree with it. But on the other hand, I also feel like it might dampen the quality of our educational system. Again, I'm not going to say it's bad or it's good completely, but I feel like mathematics is, like I said, is an analytical course that helps people think more critically. And back we have always had this level of education that people strive for. And at the end of the day, even as people strive for these things, they find out that it's not as hard as it is. I mean, I even personally, my first degree is in pure and applied mathematics. It wasn't
Oh,
a choice, to be
you
honest.
have a degree in
At the end,
mathematics.
yes, I do. Yes, I do, rather.
Interesting.
Um, yeah. It wasn't the first choice, but at the end of the day, I learned to love it, and it didn't seem as difficult as we thought growing up. I mean, growing up, people are always like, when you see mathematics, oh, it's we're scared and all of that. So even now, I do tell kids, that it's not really as hard as
Right.
people make it to seem, right? What makes mathematics a bit hard is if the foundation is not so good. If your
Okay.
foundation is good and it's well integrated in the system properly, you find out that it's not as hard as it is. So, I mean, not to digress much, I feel like it might dampen our quality a bit, but at the end of the day, like I said, since students are to be focusing on specialized areas, I think it might be okay to drop that for humanities and arts.
Right.
But while we are doing all of this, let's not forget the big fish in the whole, in the sea, which is the quality of the system itself. I mean, I think ASU is still, I don't know if the strike is ongoing,
Oh, the strike is
but ASU
currently
is threatening
ongoing.
seriously.
Oh, yes.
And yeah, so all of these nice policies, all of these things we are coming up with means nothing if the system itself is very porous as it is.
Right.
Who are the lecturers that are even going to take these things? Some schools have leaking ceilings. Some schools do not have good power. Some schools do not have good security. There's more to. I'm not, like I always say on the show. It's not about always trying to antagonize the government or the things they do. But let's also look at the broader picture. There are things that are more important than others. You know, Strike is ongoing. The government is saying they are not going to pay for. I mean, I saw a report. The government saying they are not going to pay for job not done. Then I asked myself, are they talking about this same thing that ASU has been asking for decades? So in as much as it's an okay policy to bring up, let's not forget the big things that are going on. The
Great.
quality of education in itself, the kind of lecturers we have, the infrastructure for educational systems at this point. Are we on
Right.
par?
Right.
The world is moving towards AI and tech. Are we
Exactly
even
where I wanted to,
close to catching up?
come into you with my next line of thought is the world is moving towards AI. And if you have, you studied mathematics, and if you have learned anything around what is currently going on, for example, a basic tool like Excel, you need to know some level of math, and that is not even industry centric, right? A tool like Excel, you know the average ifs, the sum ifs, and all of those. You need to at least have an idea or some form of a little bit of mathematical background. With this announcement, and given how much children fight with wanting to study math and the disinterest, you mentioned how, you usually thought it was harder when you were in your lower grades till you got to the university and found out that, okay, this is actually something I can eventually enjoy doing. Imagine how children, the phobia many kids have for math right now in Nigeria. Do you think that this announcement, as it were, will give us more people trying to build towards science and more people running into arts? That's on one hand. On the other hand, because the world is diving deeply into technology, you know that with machine learning and AI systems, you need to understand there's still a mathematics background to it for you to understand it, right? Do you think that, removing these students completely from it is going to do more harm than good when you look at it with where the world is headed currently?
Well, at the end of the day, even life in itself, has been always by choice. The things, the actions we take, are, by choice,
Right.
our choice to. So I feel like this whole new policy is all about choice. Because
Okay.
more harm than good. I wouldn't say it's going to harm, because at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be a thing of everybody's going to move towards arts. Definitely, there are still kids that will still lean towards their, sciences. I mean, the doctors, the physicists, the biologists are still going to do the mathematics. I just feel like this just makes it much more, will I say, lenient and diversifiable for kids, right? There are some kids, to be honest, not it's just like, how do I explain it without rather than just throwing everybody in a basket, why not allow them to lean towards their strengths more, which might help us. I get that it might seem like, oh, people might run away from it, but at the end of the day, you'll find out that people might not really run away from it. Rather, would have a situation where people will lean towards their strengths more. And for those that want to challenge themselves, of course, that's why it's going to be a choice. It's not a matter of, oh, you must not or you must. The fact is, oh, if you want to do sciences, you do mathematics, of course, and if you are an art, the fact that you don't do, or you would do rather, the basic mathematics. I mean, that's still going to be in curriculum, from the primary down to, I think the JSS 3, right? You still do mathematics. So the
Right.
foundational part of it is still there. But when you go into your SS class, where you're choosing, arts or sciences rather, or that you can now, focus on, the courses that would lean more towards your dreams as a growing kid and your aspirations. So I think it's okay. And as far as we know, tech is mathematically inclined. If you ask me, it's analytical. If you are going into data analysis, data entry,
Right.
um, data, basically cloud and all these things. Obviously, that is computer science. Science.
But
So
then
you have to
again,
do mathematics.
Kolawole, when you look at the way many people in humanities and certain people even in social sciences currently that have gone through the university, as it were, are out here looking for jobs, right? Are not finding jobs. And many people are navigating now into tech, getting to try to bring, old skills as regards resilience, trying to adapt to, what the world is actually looking for. Because with AI, there's certain skill sets that you might have that AI is going to disband it in real time. Even if when you look at it as regards the way it's going on social media just now, you can take a picture of your face, and all of a sudden you wear just now you'll be putting on a very nice suit, and that has been trending for a while with Nano Banana and all these other machine learning and AI devices that are currently building, and more of these tools are going to come. But when you look at it as regards many people in art, many people, in humanities, many people in social sciences, which I personally have encountered on platforms like LinkedIn, tilting a little bit towards tech. Do you think that there are opportunities that are bound in these areas, but people still tilt? And now the tilting people to using, saying, okay, let me learn tech. Don't you think it comes more from the knowledge of which they've been able to gather from, being interested in mathematics, not having this leeway, even when people are not interested in math, the thoughts that I cannot get into the university if I don't have math and English, no matter what I get, made people to want to study it more. As regards to taking off that clause completely, you don't think it's going to act fully as a form of demoralizer? And also, because of opportunities, and looking at where we are as Nigerians, everybody's trying to tilt into something else because the labor market is a little saturated.
I mean, very fair point, to be honest, very fair. And but we are speaking more in line with the system education, as it pertains to Nigeria. But if you look at it broadly now, there's a saying, you cannot give what you don't have.
Right.
And why I say that, why I'm putting that out is because let's look at Nigeria currently, right? In as much as the world is moving towards tech and AI, what is our educational system? What is the reaction of our educational system to tech and AI, right? So at the end of the day, it's more about we are literally giving what we have. And how do I explain this? So now we have an educational system, and to be honest, we are not really embracing tech into our systems. I mean, if you go to tertiary institutions in Nigeria and check out tertiary institutions in Western society, you find out that there are some programs you don't see here. I mean, you could literally study AI, right? In some schools in the West, you can't find that here. So we are literally working with what we have. And to be honest, I understand when you say math and English was compulsory and you push people to understand the analytical part and all of that. Yeah, I completely even agree with that. But even with all of that, speaking for myself, I mean, I studied math. When I graduated from the university, what next? My opportunities were kind of limited, right, in the space of Nigeria. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Right.
So if you want to even put out the AI and tech clause, at the end of the day, we still have to go and do the extra work of trying to educate ourselves more in this field we want to educate ourselves in. For example, I had to take more courses in website development and programming, to be able to compete on a much more global scale. So we don't have a system that embraces these things into the curriculums. If not, I would have said, oh, it's a really bad idea. So it has always been this way where we have to still re-educate ourselves. I mean, there are students, mathematics was a course that was literally combined with computer science. I mean, we switched to mathematics completely in level 300. Back then, we were doing coding on the board because, we had laptops and I mean, we had a computer room, if I remember clearly, but it wasn't really functional. So you get where I'm coming from, right? So as much as we were even doing the mathematics and all, we still do not have, or we did not even have all the practical, equipment and practical knowledge to work with. So that's why I'm even still literally saying let's just lean more towards our strength. At the end of the day, I still tell kids right now growing up that as you're going to school, don't forget to take extra programs. Don't forget to keep your eyes and ears open, right? If for example, you are someone that is interested in arts and humanities, along the way, you might be swayed by AI, and it's never too late to begin to learn.
Right.
It's never too late to begin to figure out how to get into cloud engineering and all of that. But this in itself will just help for those that want to be writers, actors, humanities and all of that. They can just focus on what they're doing. Now, for those that want to go into mathematics and sciences, they can do that and also switch along the way. I mean, the sky is not really the limit now. It's just the starting point.
Thank you so much for your insight on that report. Authorities in Cleveland, Ohio, are investigating a disturbing case involving the brutal beating and assault of a 5-year-old girl, allegedly carried out by children under the age of 10. According to her mother, Antavia Kenibru. The young girl was left with severe injuries after wandering out of a relative's home on September 13. She was later found several blocks away, beaten badly. Kenibru described the horrifying moment she saw her daughter receiving medical attention, saying her child was unrecognizable. The assault left the child with scalp injuries, facial bruises, blood in her eyes and mouth, and debris under her nails. The Cleveland Division of Police Sex Crimes and Child Abuse Unit confirmed it is actively investigating the incident, but emphasized that due to the involvement of minors on both sides, details remain unlimited. The 5-year-old is currently undergoing physical and psychological therapy as her family seeks answers and justice. So far, no charges have been filed. What are your thoughts on this, Mr. Kolawole? When things like this happen, do you think parents of these children who are minors should become answerable to the crimes of their children? Let's talk about it.
Well, I saw this report and it completely broke my heart, to think. I mean, the question that just kept, you know, lingering on my mind was how bad or how worse can it get, with the fact that kids under the age of 10 can do this to another kid, and I think from the story of the report, it was stated that the kids cannot be charged,
Right.
and that just demoralized me the more because then what happens to the 5-year-old? What happens to to her moving forward? The trauma, the pain. I mean, to answer your question, I feel like at some point in cases like this, parents are supposed to be brought in for questioning, and some might say the dynamics of that might be tricky, but I think there has to be some around situations such as this. It's either the parents have to be invited for questioning and be charged,
Hmm.
probably be jailed as well. Then when these kids are of age, the case should also be opened again. Because I mean, kids live and operate on things they know, they see and
Right.
they hear. So I'm sure these kids probably have seen this thing somewhere, heard. I mean, it can't just happen all of a sudden. Some people are going around saying these kids are demonic and all of that. Whether they are demonic or not, there has to be some sort of investigation to find out where they learned this from, how these things happen, and all of that. It's such a sad case that I wouldn't wish for anybody or any child out there. But
Right.
it just goes to show that something is not being done right in
So
our society nowadays,
when you
as
talk
you put
about
generally.
the probably saw it somewhere, I am trying to get a full angle if you of where the story is leading. This child was um, essayed, right? She was sexually assaulted, um, left naked for dead by 8-year-olds to 10-year-olds. The thought that little children of that age just drags to mind where when I was growing up, when I was younger, you see someone with a disability, and sometimes I even want to like I'm talking about as early as 5, and you see someone limping in a certain way, you want to have that face as if you want to laugh. Oh, my mom was going to give it to you to tell you that could have been an accident that happened to that person. It's not the person's fault that they look that way. Do you think we're actually teaching our children the values that they need to learn if 8-year-olds to 10-year-olds can actually actively essay a child and leave her for dead?
I think that's what I was saying. I think we are getting something wrong in our society now. As parents, I don't know where the fault is or what the fourth point is, but I think we need to do much better. Just like the perfect example you gave, back then, if you want to make jest of someone, you literally cannot even do that in the presence of your parents because, of course, they'll literally get angry at you and and ask you why you're laughing at the person. Do you know how the person got to be like that and whatnot? Talk less of having kids under the age of 10 that will literally have an idea what it means to sexually assault someone, beat up someone. Because on the other hand, some people are saying maybe these kids are, and by the way, I think the kids are from different households, by the way.
Oh yes, they are
So
from
I
different
don't even
households.
understand. Yeah, I don't even understand. some are saying maybe they are racist, in quotes, racist, affiliated kids, like families and all that. Because where do you get that idea or picture from that it's okay to beat up someone, a kid like you, sexually assault them, puts and stuffs, I mean, very, very, very gory story, and leave the kid for dead. It, it has to. That's why I feel like they must have. I mean, it takes a lot. I mean, at the age of 9, 10, growing up, all I could think of was probably how to play football, how to play around, and how to eat. As kids, to think kids of nowadays are capable of thinking about things like this and even acting on it just goes to show that our society is becoming something else, negatively. And people out there just need to be careful. It's sad that this had to happen, but at the same time, it's just eye-opening for parents out there to do better, for parents out there to be much more careful about where their kids are, and the communities where they are living at the moment. Such a
Right.
sad story, really.
Really, really sad. Hopefully, we'll get newer reports as the investigation concludes. Thank you so much for your insight in that report. And this is where we wrap
Thank
it
you.
up on this episode of Atlantic Society Watch. Thank you, Kalawari Adedire, for coming on the show and giving us good insights.
Thank you for having me, as always.
We are open for sponsorship of this program, jingles and adverts placement, news and events coverage, personality, society and political interviews, product service promotion, and commercials. Watch us live on www.atlanticnetwork.tv. We're also on Avo TV channel 205, Limex TV platform, Mifistec platform, Apple TV, Ninja TV, and Iroko TV. Connect with us on all our ATN socials. Subscribe, like, and share. Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network. Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1. We're on X and Atlantic TV Net. Remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Otaria Benjamin. Stay with us. Up next is International Tidbits.